Here's a subject where I don't even think I need a script. Gun control. It seems to be the big issue for the Democrats in this coming election cycle. Not just the midterms, by the way, but I think it's going to be a big thing in the 2020 election as well. Especially if we get more interpolitical, shall we say, violence between parties, and not just with Antifa and Black Lives Matter, but the sort of assassination attempt we got on Republican Senator Scalise and things of that nature. And so, what are the arguments for and against gun control? Well, traditionally, it's a matter of safety and a matter of freedom. Not freedom to own a gun, by the way. Nothing so banal and basic bitch as that. Now, what we're talking about is freedom from a tyrannical government. If you read the Second Amendment, it says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, there's a lot of debate about the comma. Does it mean a well-regulated militia being necessary, or is it well-regulated, or, does that basically mean the National Guard? I've dealt with it elsewhere, but I suppose I may as well rehash it. The reason it's not the National Guard is that the militia, the purpose of the militia and a free state is to fight off a tyrannical government like the British that this was all written about. And so if the state seizes control of the militia, as has been the case with the National Guard, it defeats the entire purpose of the endeavor. And for those of you out there who have either read Sam Harris's post on guns and the stupidity and nonsense of fighting against a state with, attack helicopters and things, you don't know your history. You don't know your military history. Small actors put up against a, technologically superior state win wars all the time. Happens all the time. I mean, just within the last century, you have Vietnam and Afghanistan off the bat. That should be within living memory of most people. So the point is, if you wanted to say that the Second Amendment protects your right to own, a handgun for personal protection, or a Biden gun, a shotgun for home protection, and maybe a deer rifle to go hunting, but it doesn't protect your right to own, assault-style weapons with extended magazines and stuff. You've got it exactly backwards. And you could make a Second Amendment compliant case for restricting handguns and shotguns and other recreational firearms for safety, but you could not restrict anything that could be used in a military fashion. This is a thought experiment. I think it would be silly to restrict handguns and leave assault rifles alone. Better to just leave them both alone. But if you want to talk about what the Second Amendment permits and doesn't permit, it's the ones that everyone wants to ban that are most explicitly protected. So, but that aside, let's put the Constitution aside for a second. Because the Constitution was talking about freedom, and freedom is only one value here. The other value is safety. And you've got doctors coming in now saying that firearms are a medical issue. I was listening to NPR on my way home from work today, and they had some doctors on talking about how they were being told to stay in their lane. They're like, I'm sorry, this is my lane. We deal with gunshot wound victims all the time, and this is a medically important issue to protect. I hate to sound like a broken record, because I'm sure I've made this analogy before, and I'm sure that many other people have too. But would that not imply that doctors and their own personal oath that they take, the Hippocratic Oath, that doesn't give them, the legal right to come in and restrict people's ability to drive, Because when you compare stats on the people who die in gun-related accidents, attacks, shootings of any kind, they pale in comparison to car accidents by such a dramatic scale, it's almost silly. I mean, even swimming pools are, equivalently dangerous to firearms from a numbers perspective. And what do we get from cars? Convenience? Really? It's basically it. You get to go places faster. You could install mandatory, state mandated 25 mile an hour governors on all motor vehicles. That would reduce traffic fatalities by 99%. We don't do it. We don't do it because it's convenient to be able to get places faster. We value the convenience more than the tens of thousands of people who die every year in car accidents. And that's fine. There's nothing morally wrong with that. But when it comes to guns, which are our doomsday safeguard against a tyrannical state, that's less important than mild economic convenience. I don't think so. And this is why I actually don't like to dwell on the lethality stats very much, because fundamentally it doesn't matter. If people were dying with as frequently from guns as they were from car accidents, which would be like you're in the middle of a civil war for that to be happening, it still would not matter. And in fact, that would be the time when it would be most important to have access to a firearm. It all comes down to control and responsibility. You say, I don't think these people are responsible enough to own a firearm. Maybe you'll even bite the bullet and say, I don't even think I am responsible enough to own a firearm. That should be limited to law enforcement people and the military. Okay, do you trust them? I'm sure the people who say that absolutely trust Donald Trump. Don't they? They must, in order to hold such a position. Of course, all these people who have the resist signs and everything. No, it's absolutely silly. But of course, and everyone, all the traditional American voters know it's silly. Gun control has traditionally been not just an unsuccessful political platform, but a suicidal one. It does not work, except an increasing number of the voter base are not Americans. We've got a lot more people coming in, a lot more immigrants from other parts of the world, including Europe, by the way. This isn't just a white thing. People from Mexico might even be more tolerant of gun laws than the ability to own firearms than many people coming in from Germany and England who thinks it's just ridiculous that we let people walk around with butter knives. And England just goes to show the nonsense of the argument that it's not a slippery slope. They're not coming to take your guns away. Yes, they are, actually. One man was shot in Maryland, I believe, by police just last week, I want to say, because they've passed a law now that allows the people to make announcements to the government saying this person should not own a firearm, and the government will come in and take them. They are coming to take your guns, and anyone who says otherwise either doesn't know who they're working for politically or is lying. They are coming for your guns and your knives and eventually your fertilizer and anything else that could be dangerous. It's so silly because guns are not even the most effective way to kill people in large numbers. Bombs are much more effective and more terrifying. And worse than that, things like poison. It's not even fun to think about what people could do with that sort of thing. And we saw a taste of that done not very effectively in with the Rajneeshpuram cult in North Oregon. They poisoned over 500 people. Thankfully, no one died because they didn't do a very good job of it. But people are getting better at that kind of thing. It's not massively difficult to do. Taking away people's guns won't save you from crazy people. And especially when who counts as crazy keeps getting expanded. Anyone who talks about taking guns away from people with mental disorders has not looked through DSM-5. DSM-5, the diagnostic manual for mental disorders used by psychiatrists. Basically everyone has something diagnosable wrong with them according to DSM-5. And some things that are genuinely wrong have been taken out, funnily enough, relating to gender and sexuality. So what's considered insane or mentally safe has been politicized. You're going to let your political enemies define who gets to own guns and who doesn't? It's absolutely silly. It's about political loyalty, and we on the right, or even in the middle, this applies to libertarians and blue dog Democrats as well, who like to go out hunting and who like to keep their family safe because you don't live in a gated community, as many of these higher level progressive Democrats do. Don't give in to this nonsense and point out that it's about political loyalty, because they have no argument as far as safety goes. The harms, the real damage that guns cause is real, but it is negligible next to all sorts of other things that they don't care about. Swimming pools, hammers, and all the other things that they will control eventually, to the point of controlling your entire life, as they do in Germany and Britain and elsewhere. Gun control is about political loyalty, and get ready. Maybe think about, what will you do if they come for your guns? Are you going to give them up willingly if they start to seize them in your state or in your city? Are you going to keep a few, undocumented guns in your sanctuary basement? Things to think about and prepare. But gun control is coming. Now that the Democrats have control of the House, they're going to be pushing hard, and it's going to be a big electoral issue. Whether they pass anything or not, I don't know. Probably not. But something to bear in mind, because there will probably be some experimental things like in Maryland over the next coming years.